Okay, I'd like to welcome everybody to the November 12th, 2015 meeting of the Brentwood Planning and Zoning Commission. If you'll please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
John Ritter.
Present.
Rebecca Jacob.
Here.
Jeff Moore.
Here.
John Nimmer is here. Michael Daming.
Here.
David Dimmitt.
Here.
Dimmitt Hansen.
Here.
We have a quorum, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Nuremberger. First item on the agenda is the approval of the October 14th minutes. Are there any changes to said minutes? Seeing none, they'll stand as submitted. First item under old business is an application for site plan review at 2350 St. Clair Avenue for parking and access modifications. Applicant being CEDC. Is the applicant here? Dr. Faulkner, you're going to step forward, introduce yourself.
I'm David Faulkner, the superintendent of the Brentwood School District, and I'm just here on behalf of, well, actually bringing a letter from our engineer asking for a continuance of this motion. We had a meeting with the city last week with Bola and with Justin to discuss how we could work out the traffic study. I think we've worked out something that will work for both of us, and so we're looking forward to moving forward with that. If there are questions I can answer.
Mr. Wise, anything other than his request for a continuance that we need to memorialize?
I think that's it.
Okay, well, very good. Mr. Nuremberger?
I just have one question. I know that there was a couple of people that showed up last meeting. They were a little bit concerned that the school district hadn't gone out to the community, kind of to talk to the neighbors and that sort of thing. Is there been any attempt to do that, to say what you're proposing to do?
No, actually, no. We did not think to do that in advance because when this first started, we were just looking in the exploratory mode with the engineer because we weren't sure we were going to be able to overcome some of the obstacles. So I think that just kind of got missed in the process.
Well, the other question or comment that was made, it was a little bit, but the people that are sending your kids to McGrath are other areas of the school district or whatever, that there's might be more important things being done, basically doing the improvements to the parking lot and that sort of thing. So they were talking about a leaking roof and that sort of thing. So I'm just saying it's not for us to
Right.
do your schools and that sort of thing, but there were concerns expressed, and you might want to reach out to some of the people.
Yeah, I did have one neighbor who called and spoke to me just to find some additional information I shared with him. But I certainly share the concerns about whether or not it's the best use of the taxpayers' money. We try to be very, very careful with that. And this has been a need for the 12 years I've been in the district, just for the safety of the community, because all of our schools were designed to be, and you know this, were designed to be walking schools. And the traffic that time of the morning and the afternoon is really terrible. But we happened to have last year an addition of funds that were unexpected, and so we thought that putting that to a capital improvement would be a good way to memorialize that. And also by adding it to that north side of the property, it'll be a permanent improvement in case we decide in the future to completely redo that building. We still would maintain that improvement to the property. But we're fixing leaking roofs and all those kinds of things as well.
I figured you were. I'm just, it was just something that was expressed, so.
Yeah, no, I certainly would understand how somebody would have that perspective. But yes, we are aggressively taking care of some deferred maintenance.
All right, thank you.
Very good. Well, we look forward to seeing the traffic study. While you're here, Dr. Faulkner, let's go ahead and pin down the meeting date for our subcommittee meeting, at which time hopefully we'll have the traffic study in hand.
In our discussions with the school district, one of the significant elements that's going on that impacts the school itself is construction on Litzinger right now. So with that, it's highly unlikely that it would be for the next subcommittee that we would have this done. I think with the school's realistic construction schedule, with where we are in getting into the winter months here, our hope was to bring this back maybe January or February, depending on how the timing of some of these go on. So with that, I don't think there's a chance that we're going to have it in the next couple of weeks.
Is that consistent with your understanding, Dr. Faulkner?
Well, when we met last week, we didn't know what the timeline was with the construction that's happening on Lipsing with the sidewalks. And so we all thought that it was prudent to make sure that a study is not started when you've got the roads blocked with construction, because it wouldn't be an accurate study at that time. But when we met last week, I don't know if Justin knows when they'll be moved past that so that we have an accurate place for the study.
Okay, well then I guess
But, yeah.
this month's meeting time is a little less relevant then.
Yeah.
We'll look forward to seeing you again in January.
Okay?
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Next item under old business is an application for a conditional use permit and site plan review to allow a dry cleaner at 2590 South Brentwood Boulevard. Is the applicant present? Please step forward, sir.
Mike, should we have asked anybody in the audience? No, okay.
Is it Mr. Patel?
Yes.
That's right. Mr. Patel, you've been before this body before, and the commission took up your application at its October meeting, and then again at its October subcommittee meeting. For the benefit of people watching on TV and our audience, can you bring everyone up to speed on how the application has changed since our October meeting in this room?
Sure, yes. So in the October meeting, the commission kind of requested some more details on the facade and the sign and the plan about the backside of the building, if you're squaring up the building or not. And in the last meeting, in the sub-meeting, we talked about a couple of signs that we would like to hang inside of the store that would be visible from the outside. And commission kind of asked for some more details on those signs as well. So I have those details today. And John Febb, our architect, he has some more details about the facade and the building itself.
Okay, and I know we went through a lot of these changes since the subcommittee meeting, but for the benefit again of our citizens, if Mr. Pfaff, if you could run us through the changes since the last meeting?
Thank you. In general, on the building itself, as you can see, we added more glass along the front, and we do have some renderings here I'll pass on.
Here, also, I would like to pass on these signs as well.
Very good.
So side changing the glass in the front, adding some glass. The fascia stays the same as the subcommittee meeting. We did move the sign to the center of the building. And as you can see on the upper elevation, we show the side elevation and what we'll do when we remove the slope peak from the high building. On
Okay,
the-
go ahead.
On the site plan itself, we added a little more planting to the south island. We showed the site lighting. There's an existing concrete base we're going to put a light on. We showed the light in the back of the building. And we're going to redo the 5 or 6 lights that are in the soffit. And we believe that'll give the site its proper lighting level.
Okay, how about changes since the subcommittee meeting?
That's it, the site lighting and the design of the side of the building.
All right?
And, and more glass in the front.
More glass. And you're committed to landscaping that whole 5.5 foot area in the front of the building?
Yes, sir. Like the report says, we like the low flowers and low grass on the center section around the sign.
Okay, Mr. Wise, any staff report?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think the applicant did a very good job summarizing the changes both since the subcommittee and since the subcommittee last met. Some of the changes, again, to kind of highlight some of the larger ones, the inclusion of the landscaping at the entrance/exit on the southern part of the site, as well as on the northern end. The parking in front of the storefront has been angled. When it was at the Planning and Zoning Commission last month, it was 90-degree angle parking, so that should help with site access a little bit. So with angling the parking and with adding in the larger landscape island on the southwest side of the site, they have lost 2 parking spots since it was here last time. They still do meet the city's minimum requirement of 21 spaces for the site. When we were at the subcommittee, there were several conditions that were talked about to ensure that the site would operate as it was being expressed to the Planning and Zoning Commission. Those start on the bottom of page 6 that staff has identified and on the page 7 of the staff report. And they are that all dry cleaning must take place in a closed system, that only one non-incidental window sign shall be permitted, that the use of perc shall not be permitted. Perc is the dry cleaning chemical that was associated with dry cleaners in the past that have had a lot of environmental issues. That the store hours shall be between 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. Monday through Saturday, and that the site shall comply with section 400-255-50 pertaining to toxic matter. So that gets to odors and any negative issues that would potentially come from the chemicals that are used on the site. So if there's odors associated with them, they would be considered a nuisance and would have to abate those.
And the applicant is satisfied with those conditions being part of the application?
Yes, sir.
Very good. All right, questions from commissioners? Mr. Moore?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Justin, I have a question. You said that 21 parking spaces on the amended plan meets city for the site. Sounds like a silly question, but are we talking about the footprint of the building or the area of the land?
The parking for this use is based off of the gross floor area, so it's the footprint of the building.
So let me speculate. If the building were subdivided into 2 businesses, would it still
It would stay
meet
the
that
same.
requirement?
As long as, yeah, our parking requirements are based off of use classes. So as long as you take a service use for a service use, it would stay the same. If they were to subdivide it and put a restaurant in there, then that would be considered a more intensive use and they would have to add parking. Does that make sense?
It does,
Okay.
it does. I just, an observation that when the plan came back with the beautiful front windows and the signage facade, it looked to me like it'd be easily split into 2 businesses, so that's why I asked. My question's answered.
Anyone else from the commission? Anyone in the audience like to address the commission on this application? If there's no further discussion, we'll entertain a motion. Mr. Nurnberger?
I will make a motion that, in the affirmative, that we approve this plan with the 5 conditions that are noted in the bottom of the handout today.
I'll second.
There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
John Ritter,
Yes.
Rebecca Jacobs,
Yes.
Jeff Moore,
Yes.
John Nurnberg is yes, David Dimmitt,
Yes.
Jennifer Hansen.
Yes.
Motion passes, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you. Next step will be the Board of Aldermen, and Mr. Wise will walk you through that process. Thank you for your cooperation and your attention to some of the concerns that were important to the commission. We appreciate it. I think this is a very nice application, and we look forward to having you in Brentwood.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you.
We have one item under new business tonight, an application for a conditional use permit and site plan review to allow a hair salon at 8943 Manchester Road. Is the applicant here?
Yes.
Please step forward, ma'am, introduce yourself, state your address, and present your application.
I'm Julie Eggles. I own a salon, Mesh Salon, up the street in Rock Hill that I currently rent, and we were wanting to buy at 8943 to move the salon down there. to make it into a conditional use.
Okay. Mr. Wise, staff report?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The subject site is located at 8943 Manchester Road. It's on the north side of Manchester Road with, it's zoned general commercial district with properties to the west, south, and east, also zoned general commercial district, and properties to the north zoned B residential district. The property is approximately a fifth of an acre in size. As it's less than half an acre, the GC General Commercial District regulations require a conditional use permit for the use of the hair salon. In addition, the applicant is proposing to add some additional parking on the front side of the building, so the south side of the existing building, closest to Manchester Road. The access for those parking spots is located, to get to it, you would actually have to enter into the property to the west, their entrance, and then access those parking. The staff report did call out that in order to use an arrangement like that, a cross-access easement between the properties would be necessary. The applicant did provide an easement that was recorded back in April of 2000. I left a copy of that at each of your chairs this evening. So that issue has largely been addressed as far as the legal right to access the parking along there. When looking at the lot itself, there's a set of supplemental information. One of them shows a floor plan of the building itself, and it shows 4 stations within the structure. The city's parking code requires 2.5 spaces per station that's utilized on the maximum shift. So if you had 4 people all at one time, it would require 10 parking spaces. If you were only going to utilize 2 stations at any one time, it would require 5, and so on. So with the parking arrangement, how they're proposing, there is an existing driveway that goes into the property. And it has a little bump out on the side that could be utilized for parking. However, under our code for commercial parking, it wouldn't allow that full stacking kind of head-in parking arrangement to account for parking. So under this current configuration, basically you could park, from the city's parking regulation standpoint, 2 cars within that area. And with 2 cars being basically 7 parking spaces from the city, that would require a restriction on the use so that no more than 2 of those stations could be utilized at any one time. The comprehensive plan calls for the area to be a neighborhood mixed-use designation. The use of the property as a hair salon is consistent with that designation. And 2 final items, as part of the construction process before occupancy is issued, a 6-foot site-proof fence is required between this parcel and the residential parcels to the north. And then I think it would be reasonable to get a clarification on how trash service will be handled. Are we going to have dumpsters on the site? How that arrangement will work.
Okay.
There is,
Ms.
yeah.
Eagles, can you address those?
Yes, there is more parking on the side of the easement, on the side of the building. I think there's 4 extra spots going just forward, parking in. And we wouldn't need a dumpster.
Okay.
I usually just put it in my car. It's not that much trash.
Were you aware of the fence requirement?
No, there is a fence back there now. Yeah.
All right, open it up to questions from commissioners. Yes, Mr. Demme.
Thank you. On the, so are you planning on utilizing those 4 or 5 spaces that, I don't know, would those be on the property? Those are on the other property, right?
That's actually on the easement. Yeah. Along the side of the building?
Right.
Yes.
That's what I'm talking about.
Correct.
But the way I read the easement, it looks like it grants, it says it's for ingress and egress. and for general access over. It doesn't say, I didn't see anything in there about allowing parking on
It's
that.
designated now for parking spaces, so I just assumed.
Okay, and I'm not arguing with you on that.
No,
I'm
yeah.
just saying the problem that we don't want to get into is we go forward with this and find out that that property owner will not allow you to park your cars in those spots.
Correct.
And the
yeah.
theory be because it's not part of the easement. If I'm reading it incorrectly,
You know,
Yeah.
just, I'm looking at number 2, where it's saying perpetual easement for ingress and egress and for general access over, on, and along. So, I mean, I would, if I were preparing that, I would consider that to be yes for parking.
okay.
I don't,
Well, it certainly is an issue that I have, it's a concern that I would have,
Okay.
is, you know,
Because
is,
I need adequate parking.
absolutely, because as Justin said, to rely solely on that driveway, you're not gonna get 5 spots in that drive. You might physically be able to do it, but it's not workable, because it's gonna require people to pull out backwards onto Manchester.
Sure, exactly. We've talked about that situation too. The front of the property is part of an MSD project where they're doing the laterals going in. So we thought that maybe there could be an adjustment made also with that driveway, because that's gonna be excavated and tore out. And MSD was wanting to replace it just like it was. However, we thought a change could be made similar with that.
I don't know what the commission's thoughts are in terms of sending this to any site plan review or subcommittee, but if we are inclined to do that, I would like you to get some information on, clarification on that easement. I mean, I would sleep better if we had something, and I'm not arguing with Jennifer, but it's just my concern that since it does not specifically say parking in there, I would hate for you to rely upon that, and then they say
Yeah.
you can't park your cars
And we
here.
addressed that with,
Yeah.
is it Pete Hensley?
Pat.
Pat Hensley?
Yeah.
With that.
And he said he kept it vague to keep it easier.
Mm-hmm,
That's what I got from the real estate agent. So
okay. And
it's contingent on it becoming a
Sure,
salon. Yeah.
sure. Well, he's got some incentive then to work with you, kind of
Yeah,
thing.
yeah.
And-
The other concern that I have is the way that it is striped right now, one of those spots on Hensley's lot is blocking 2 or 3 of your proposed 5 spots. So if there's a car parked there,
Correct.
then you
can
lose
That's
2,
fine.
maybe 3 of your proposed 5 new
We'll lose 2 of
spots.
those. We'll lose 2 of those parallel spots in order to bring in 5 of the ones that are on the drawings.
But I think, I don't know if we need some clarification on that, but, you know, as it's submitted to us right now, there's nothing about that, saying that you would lose, that Hensley's agreeing to eliminate those 2 spots. See what I'm saying?
And the
And-
spots are striped right now, right in front of that area.
Right,
Yeah.
right. So that is a real,
And the parking, I think, is up for change or debate. If we could make more parking, that would be great.
Yeah.
That was the drawings that he had
Mhm.
already, so he let us use those,
okay.
just to kind of get the ball rolling.
Okay. The couple of other areas I'd like to address is, there's nothing in your plan about any type of landscaping in the front of the property. I was wondering if you'd be amenable to doing anything like that.
Sure.
Like Hensley's got some trees in the
Yeah.
front, and since your game plan is to put 5 cars on the front of the property, it would be nice if we could have some type of a landscape buffer.
I think there is a buffer
It does.
drawn on that.
You're right, it does reference a landscape, 10-foot landscape buffer. So I don't know if that envisions landscaping going in that 10-foot spot, but if so, you know, Justin can help you out with what will work there, but I would like to see something done along those lines. The fence, I do agree there is a fence in the back on the north side. Well, it looked okay to me. The one on the east side was in really bad.
The one, yeah.
Right,
That one needs
right.
to be replaced.
Pretty much the structure of the house is going to remain the same, the looks of the house,
Mm-hmm.
we're not proposing any changes to the outside.
Okay. Well, that's all I had, Mr. Chairman.
Ms. Hanson?
Thank you. I just have a couple questions for you. I know that you've got a maximum of 4 stylists are they, do you intend to have all 4 there at all times? Can you give me a sense of the situation? Do they rent their space?
I have 2 renters and 1 works underneath of me, and then I work as well. So some days, yes, we're all 4 there.
What are you going to do with the second floor? Just leave it?
It's going to be an office and then a staff room.
Yeah, and so I've read through the easement too, and obviously, like, 2 reasonable people can disagree as to what it says. So my concern for you I would just piggyback on what Mr. Dimmitt said, which is to make sure, and I presume that that Hensley's got a real incentive to work with you guys on parking, but to make sure that you've got something
Yeah.
that grants you a pretty explicit right to parking.
Yeah.
Because right now, the property's landlocked, I mean, there's nowhere to go. on
Right,
either
right,
side.
yeah, but past it a lot of times, so
Yeah.
you guys do need parking, and
Yeah.
I
Yes,
presume that they would work with you,
definitely.
but.
The front has a lot of opportunity.
And then hours of, do you do a lot of your work on the weekend, or are you guys evening folks, or
I do. The other 2 work on the evenings. I don't, or the weekends. I don't.
what hours are you contemplating?
I'm usually there from 7 till 7, 3 days a week, and then the other ones work more,
All right.
evenings and weekends.
So Mesh Salon, what are their hours of operation?
Well, it would be from 7 a.m. and probably till 7 p.m. I would
Monday
say.
through Friday?
Yes.
Saturdays?
No, Mondays.
No, we work Mondays.
Barbershops
I don't
are
work,
open.
but some of them do. And then Saturdays, closed on Sundays.
And then it's limited to hair, correct? No,
Yes.
you don't have an esthetician or anything?
No.
Are there plans, I mean, do you anticipate at some point expanding?
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, that's all I had.
Okay. So certainly, we'll open up to some more questions, but I think these are good points that have been raised by Mr. Dimmitt and Ms. Hanson. I would suggest, to the extent we don't send this to subcommittee, to ensure that any motion to approve would have the conditions of it being a valid and enforceable parking easement, and that the applicant does landscape that 10-foot landscaping buffer to the satisfaction of staff. Any other questions from commissioners? Anyone in the audience like to address the commission on this application? Okay. Any further discussion? Thoughts? Are those would those conditions address your concerns, commissioners?
Well, if I could ask Justin, are you in a position to work with the applicant as far as any landscaping is concerned? I mean, if we did this contingent upon, I don't know how we would phrase it, landscaping that's acceptable to the city or something like that. I don't want the applicant to go to the expense of
Right.
identifying what trees and bushes and things like that to put in there.
I think if we could add a little bit more language so that we don't get into overly subjective territory, like, include 2 trees and shrubs. It doesn't have to be overly specific, but just some guidance that would give the applicant and staff some direction on what the commission is hoping to get.
Well, Ms. Eagles, have you thought of what landscaping you'd like to have?
Something really pretty. No, I haven't, actually. I do want to make it look nice, obviously, because that's one of the reasons I'm moving from my other place, because it doesn't look as nice. But, so I would do whatever was needed to put in.
Well,
I think realistically, when looking at the area of the site, and trying to envision the parking within that area being added, if you could get 1 tree, a good tree within that location, and then some low-lying bushes around, I think that would go a long way to making that site look nice.
Okay. Yeah, just something, I'm sorry, just something in front of, to kind of block the cars
Sure.
that are being parked there. Like I said, we're not looking for any fence or anything like that to block it, but you get the gist of it, so. You
And
would
I
be
guess-
agreeable with 1 tree and
Oh,
shrubs?
yes, definitely, yeah.
Absolutely.
And I guess the purpose of the landscaping barrier is to prevent cars from rolling out onto, or is it for aesthetics?
I have no idea.
Let's go with the
We've
aesthetics of that.
reviewed it, her
I
and
was hoping you
many
had that
times.
info for us.
I would think probably more aesthetics than
Okay.
anything else.
Okay. Well, as long as the applicant is agreeable to that condition concerning the landscaping and also agreeable to addressing the parking,
Yeah.
then I have no
Yeah.
problem.
Is there any way of doing different parking arrangements than what's drawn up there?
Mr. Wise?
Well, there's always options. I mean, the realistic only other option would be to put parking in the rear of the structure. And, you know, there's pros and cons to each of those solutions. The most obvious pro is, you know, there's more room back there. And it gets rid of the visual off of Manchester Road. The downside is there's residents back there, there are trees back there. So
I'm not
it's,
opposed to putting parking in the back. That was just the parking that they already had drawn up. I just would like parking, you know, for me, it doesn't matter where we go. But-
So the motion, to the extent we took up a motion tonight, it would be contingent on your ensuring that you have an enforceable parking easement.
Exactly.
Exactly.
We want that too. I mean, we don't want to go into a deal without adequate parking. The back is opened a lot, and
It's
and
bigger.
even if we could just get 2 spots in the back with the 5 in the front, you know, and then the 2 on the drive, I think there's more than enough room to get the 10 spots required.
So that's not before us. To the extent that you would prefer that, you can always take that back, you can consider that, and we can
Yeah.
take it up at the next meeting
Yeah,
and see what.
we need our options, you know, that would be there for us to work with.
So you would prefer that we table it at this point, and so you can investigate some other parking options?
So yeah, don't you think, Julie? And for the back?
Then it puts yeah, we need to make sure we have enough parking
Yeah.
before we purchase, yes. So I don't know, if you all say that there is parking allowed in the back, that we could just figure out how to do it, then we could move forward. I don't know how that works.
Well, I don't think it's part of the site plan that's before us.
right. Basically, to get that done, the plan that you all had submitted would need to be revised.
Yes.
Okay.
And have it redrawn to showing where the parking would be and what parking on the adjacent lot would have to be removed to get the parking into the rear of it. And then, you know, trying to identify which trees are gonna be removed, and then ensuring that, we don't have a negative particularly impact on the residents behind you, that all the water kind of mimics the natural flow right now, which I presume largely either sits on the lot or comes out to Manchester, that we would want to keep that same drainage pattern. So it does get more complicated as you move to the back.
A little bit, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, think about it this way, what if those residents had an issue with parking in the back, and they just know that an application is gonna be before us today that doesn't contemplate any parking in the back? They may or may not have an issue with that, but it's better to give them fair notice of what you intend to do.
Okay.
So would you like to just hold off us to table this at this point, and you can investigate your options and come up with whatever you prefer to do?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Any objection to the applicant's request that we table this application? Okay, well then we'll look forward to seeing you. Well, do you want to come back before us at our next regular meeting, or do you want to meet the Monday before Thanksgiving?
The Monday before Thanksgiving.
All right. Commissioners, are you available the Monday before Thanksgiving? The 23rd?
I think
Yeah.
so.
The sooner the better, because Hensley's
Understood.
waiting on us too.
Understood.
You're still gonna have to come back to the full board meeting as well. It would not be a vote at that day.
That's correct.
When's the next meeting?
Well, our subcommittee meeting, which would be the next meeting we would look at these applications in greater detail, would be Monday, the 23rd. The next regular meeting, which would be the earliest time that your application could be approved, would be,
December 9th.
I don't think there's a lot to it.
No.
So we can either take it up on December the 9th, or we can take it up on November the 23rd, whichever you would like to do.
The earlier.
Earlier the better.
But we can't pass it until December the 9th.
Well, we understand that, but at least we have proof that.
I'll tell you, why don't we take it up on the 23rd, if that's,
Oh, no.
just a,
I just want to make sure they knew that they
Right. No, it's a good
should,
point.
yeah,
May
need to come.
So we had to submit drawings for the bag.
Yeah, to Mr. Wise.
Okay.
Ms. Hanson?
We had a recent applicant on Manchester Road who did parking in the rear, and I think it would behoove you, if you didn't get the hint from the chairman, to reach out to the residents behind you and let them know.
Okay.
And that may guide the way you handle
Sure, and
this,
that's a
but,
very large, deep lot, so
Yeah.
Yeah.
our
Re-
parking would.
yeah, and regardless though, just
Yeah.
pass it with the people who get,
Yeah.
reach out before you get to the meeting.
I think, yeah, that's a good point. And let's put it this way. So to the extent you want to stick with your current application,
Yeah.
then I think you could wait. You would be safe waiting until December the 9th.
Okay.
To the
Okay.
extent you want to change your application and have us consider this parking in the back situation or maybe something else, then I think you do have to come November 23rd, so we have a little more in-depth analysis of that change. So
Well,
at this
We have
point,
enough parking now, right? If we would use the front parking.
subject and contingent on your having an enforceable parking easement, correct?
Yes, yes.
So if that ends up not being enforceable, you're going to have to come back before us again.
Okay.
And how do we find out that's enforceable?
Well, you probably would find
Hensley.
a sheriff at your door with, with a lawsuit suing
Well,
you.
we've researched the easement, we've had we've talked with, well, we personally haven't talked with Hensley about it, but, we've got, we've read it, and
Well, we can't give you legal advice. I
Yeah.
mean, it
Sure,
doesn't say
sure.
parking anywhere on it,
it does, yeah.
but Ms. Hanson astutely noted that, it seems to reference what might go on that lot, but doesn't say parking on it.
Sure.
Okay. Well, then let's hold off.
Okay, well, good. So again, think about what you want to do. If you want to stick with the application, or if you want to change it with regard to the parking, just let Mr. Wise know, and we'll plan accordingly. So we'll either, if you change it, we'll see you on the 23rd.
Okay,
If you don't change it, then we'll see you on the 9th.
Okay.
Okay, very good. All right, thank you.
thank you.
Okay. What do we got next? Automatic report. See anyone here? City planners report, Mr. Wise?
One quick item. The UMSL Chancellor's Certificate Program in Planning and Zoning is offering a special 3-hour webinar. I believe it is next Thursday, the date cut off on my printing. But if anybody is interested in this, I think several of you may have already gone through it. It just kind of gives an introduction into planning and zoning. Get in touch with me. I can schedule a time that we can either set something up here at City Hall or make sure that you can get access to it at your house. So shoot me an email or give me a call and I can
What
help out
time
with
is
that.
it at?
Cut off on my sheet.
I think it's 6 to 9.
They're usually 6 to 9.
Okay.
I'll confirm that in just I'll send it out in an email tonight to you all. But if you're interested in it, let me know and I can get folks signed up for that.
Can you give us an update on the comprehensive plan?
Yes. So we've gotten the contract signed, and we are at this point trying to get an initial meeting set up with the consultant to start kind of laying out the framework for the process moving forward, timing wise, and then we'll start scheduling meetings. So my realistic expectation is by the beginning of the year that the commission will start to hear from staff and the consultant.
Questions for Mr. Wise? Okay, you all heard the subcommittee, which may or may not occur, but we were looking at Monday, the 23rd at 6 p.m., if that would work for those present. It seemed to be more preferred than a Wednesday before Thanksgiving meeting. Okay, great. So Justin, you'll let us know whether or not we're going to have that meeting.
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Rationale, Mr. Wise can handle.
Yes, sir.
Any other business? Entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? All right, stand adjourned.